And I love how they did this. Um, when I was coaching, we used to we'd have a pregame ritual, like we'd go through our before we got on the warm-up mat, we would go and we would sit and we would mentally go through our routine and talk through the routine and like visualize just hitting. And I think that really it kind of grounded everybody. We then would go to the mat and then we come out into waiting and that we were on deck, and just right before we're ready to go on, kind of all huddle together, take a collective breath and kind of pump each other up again. Yesterday, I saw teams, creating um, crowd response in their waiting time. I saw them just really huddling together and kind of like, it was their last day as a in the state championships that they were going to be competing together, and they really just all pulled together. And I think that makes a big difference when if you can collectively come together, get your mindset right, and bring the energy onto the floor. I think that can be a big game changer for teams. Welcome to the Cheer Athlete Podcast, where we bring coaches, parents, and athletes expert tips and advice to help keep cheerleaders healthy, strong, and at the top of their game. Now let's go. Welcome to the Cheer Athlete. Today, we're going to talk about the Massachusetts State Championship that I went to yesterday, and what a great experience it was. Hopefully, if you were in attendance, or if you know cheerleaders who are in attendance, or you have been before, hopefully you enjoy the experience as much as I did. I went just to the morning session, and it was great. I wish I could have stayed for the entire day, because I know that I would have loved to have seen the Division 1, 2, and 3 teams compete, but alas, life called and I needed to get after and not stay for the whole day. So today we're going to talk about energy levels, sharpness emotions, handling mistakes, and the emotional highs and lows of competition. If you're loving this podcast and you get some value of it, please share it. Especially if you know somebody who's a high school cheerleader and wants to maybe continue on, or is thinking about being a high school cheerleader, or as a parent, share that with your teammates and your coaches so that everyone can hear. I do have some notes, so bear with me as we go through them. So if you don't know me, I'm Laura Turner. I'm the cheer PT, and I help cheerleaders reduce injuries and teach parents and coaches about injury prevention techniques and strength conditioning programs to help you stay healthy and on the mat and stay cheering for as long as you wish. So let's talk. First thing I want to talk about is some pre-competition rituals, and some of the first impressions that I saw with teams on the mat. It started off the very first team that went. There was a delay in getting everybody out there, and they got in a huddle and they were chanting together and just really like pumping each other up. And I love how they did this. When I was coaching, we used to we'd have a pregame ritual, like we'd go through our before we got on the warm-up mat, we would go and we would sit and we would mentally go through our routine and talk through the routine and like visualize just hitting. And I think that really it kind of grounded everybody. We then would go to the mat and then we come out into the, waiting and that we were on deck, and just right before we're ready to go on, kind of all huddle together, take a collective breath and kind of pump each other up again. Yesterday, I saw teams, creating crowd response in their waiting time. I saw them just really huddling together and kind of like, it was their last day as in the state championships that they were going to be competing together, and they really just all pulled together. And I think that makes a big difference when if you can collectively come together, get your mindset right, and bring the energy onto the floor. I think that can be a big game changer for teams. You could see how that really kind of came into focus. Most teams, I think there was only one, maybe there was two teams that actually ran across the mat when they were called on, but most teams would go and line up and kind of stand together and hold hands, and that just shows the solidarity and their like team bonding. And then they came onto the mat. And getting your mind right, getting visualizing and just knowing you're going to hit it, and including that into your pregame performance can really make or break a routine. You get everybody used to being out there and get everybody focused on the routine, making sure they remember their spots, remember their counts, and remember when they're going to hit. And anything that's bobbled, it goes out of their mind. If we can not put negative into our comments, like, oh, and this doesn't hit here, but it's gonna hit today. Like that's a negative connotation. And then they just have it in their head, like maybe it's not gonna hit. So instead just say, you walk up 5, 6, 7, 8, toss hands, hit, motions are clean, sharp, and we're on count. And then that just gets into their head. So I love watching those pregame rituals and those, when they first come in together and kind of really just getting themselves focused. I think that was really cool. The difference between the high energy routines and the low energy routines, you could tell when a team was really into it. They felt confident. They came out just bringing the energy. They were solid, they were strong, they were in our face. Versus the teams that were not quite, they knew their routine. I didn't see one routine that I was like scared that something was on the mat. There was a few wobbles, there was a few, if stunts, a couple stunts came down, but it wasn't any scary moment. I think it was a timing thing, or it just went in, a little weird. And some of the most confident teams had those wobbles also. But the confidence, you can have a team that has a little less lower skill level, but really brings the energy. And as a spectator, that's super fun to watch, versus a team that kind of comes out and their difficulty is all over the place, but they're just like going through the motions and not selling themselves, not selling the routine, not selling the fact that like they're cheerleaders and they're pumping us up. Like we get into the athletic part of it so much. And I think that's huge. And yes, that's where the injury prevention comes in. And yes, that's where the strength needs to happen. But if we're not going out there and bringing the energy, like all of that comes to like has to be sharp. And that's what makes people want to watch. I saw, there was one team that I really took note of the motions that they did during a transition. I don't want to call people's names out throughout this, but I do remember it was Lowell Catholic. So I'm giving you a shout out. Your motions in between your transitions, like they were clean, they were on point, and they were energetic. Like you knew there was a purpose for those motions at that time frame. And I think that really flowed with the routine. If we watch a lot of college routines and a lot of all-star routines, like there's very fast moving and quick transitions and a lot of tumbling and building. And I think the difference in a high school routine, it's not quite as quick moving like that, but there's a lot more energy and the flow is definitely there. If we clean those motions up and we make motions be part of a count instead of just walking clean, it makes a big difference in how the energy of the routine flows. So kudos to you, Lowell Catholic, for doing that. I guess I am going to call out some teams as well. Bring the presence. Your presence on the mat will get you a lot more awareness of you. Yeah, you're performing for your score. Yeah, you're performing for the judges. But really, you're out there performing for someone like me who's sitting in the stands and watching you. Like that's what happens at every game. That's what happens. Your parents are there, your friends are there. Like get out and like sell it. Like let them see what you've been working on all year long. And I think a lot of the teams did that. There were some teams that could use a little bit more energy but you could tell maybe they were new at the state level competition, and they brought it. Even the teams that I don't think have traditionally been there over the last couple of years that are being there more consistent now, like I could see their progress from last year to this year and that comfort level on the mat. So that comes with experience. That's hard because you're transitioning quickly in a year, but when you bring that energy, it makes a big difference. All right, let's talk crowd response and performance etiquette. So there was one team, I believe it was Attleboro. It was a pregame ritual and they were on the side. There was a waiting time before they went on. Well, they started a chant and their entire crowd started cheering with them. Clearly, they have done this before. Clearly, they know what the cheerleaders are doing. That is the point of doing of being a cheerleader, is to get the crowd involvement. It is, get your fans excited. Traditionally, in old school, as far as game wise goes, it is make it noise. Like the people that come to see us are our friends and our family. Most people are there for the game. Well, it helps to pump somebody up on a football field if they're about to go, if the crowd gets loud. That's why if you go to a professional game, you see the noise and everybody just kind of erupts into that noise. That helps to kind of just create better energy flow. And Attleboro, you did that wonderfully yesterday. You did that with your team. So you're building that rapport. And I think if we can teach our all of our teams to do that, it'll make a big difference when you do go and compete. So kudos to you. I think that crowd response was huge, and you can make a big difference. And then that helps. The intent here at a competition for us is your crowd is now pumping you up. So good job on that. That's what we want. We want that energy. We want the crowd to be into it, and that helps to go get you psyched up to be on the mat and thus bring it. One big complaint that I have, and I kudos to the MSSAA for announcing it, is to make sure that spectators aren't walking during a performance, not going past the blue line that was a set off point, a cutoff point where the coaches would stand and then where the mat was. Many people would come into the stands and just kind of hover there and talk to people in the stands. It was a Narragansett cheerleader was coming down the stairs, and she saw that somebody was filming and she knew a team was on the mat, and she stopped. She made her friend stop and she sat down so that people behind her could see, and waited until the routine was over and then went out on her way. And good job. That was display of good sportsmanship and really like respect for your fellow athletes and respect for the crowd. And there was a lot of parents that were just kind of because their kid wasn't on the mat, they're just walking through and sometimes just stopping and pausing there. And as a spectator, that's frustrating because you're blocking my view, dude. And I know that's ratty of me to say, but it's one thing to keep going, but it's another thing like just wait until there's a good 30 seconds between each competition. So wait in an area where it's not distracting to the rest of the crowd. That's my rant for the day. um, and I think we talked already about the energy and how the crowd. I don't remember who it was, but every team, like when they started their dance routine, everyone started to clap with them. On the one hand, I get anxious about that because we can, as a crowd, we can speed up the tempo for where the cheerleaders are going. But I also think it's exciting for them, and they can feel your energy. And so, as a spectator and parent and a friend, like I think that's good. Just try to stay on beat. I don't think anybody messed that up. Everything looked good, and I could feel the energy in the room, and that was really cool. So let's now talk a little bit about the emotional side of the competition. For most of the teams yesterday, this was their last performance. Only the top 3 teams in Massachusetts get to move on to regionals. And you have to score a certain amount to be able to move on to a national competition. And so this was their last performance. Not everybody's moving on. Or maybe they are moving on, but it's still like how, you're going out there and knowing it could be your last performance, or maybe it's not. And you come off the mat, and like that energy just hits you. There were some kids that came off crying because I don't really know, because I didn't see any stunts come down in that moment. Something happened on the mat and they had to pause and clean up something. I don't know. I didn't see it happen. So good job, because you finished the routine and were able to do it without anyone else seeing. But came off the mat and kids would come off the mat, and then sometimes they were crying, but sometimes they were really crying because they knew they left it. Like it was Greater Lawrence came off, and um, one of their athletes was you could see broken down, and I thought that routine was solid. I hope they knew they came off and they left it on the mat, and it made me tear up, like because I can remember feeling like, oh my gosh, it's over. When like what a relief, because you're like all this anticipation has been leading up to this. You start off the school year, you go through the fall season, and then you come into winter season, and it's the end. And like if you're a senior and you're moving on and that's your last time with your teammates, like whoa, it's very emotional. And to see when someone comes off and they know they hit the routine the best they could, and and to be in their parents' arms and to be with their teammates and just get hugs, like it's really cool. And I think remembering like, the big part of cheerleading is the bonds that we form, the friendships that we make, the hard work that you put in throughout the whole year comes down to 2 minutes and 30 seconds for one competition. But it doesn't really. And if we only look at that 2 minutes and 30 seconds and we only look at the performance, we miss out on a lot. So take what you have learned through the year, applaud yourself for all the work you put in, be amazed at everything you do on a day-to-day basis, because just today is all you have. You can't predict what happens tomorrow at the next competition. You can't change what happened at the last competition. All you have is today. So embrace that, enjoy the moment, and embrace that day, and magic will happen. Mistakes. Let's talk about handling mistakes, because sometimes they're going to happen, right? You can have the best one up and it hits solid, but just that little bit is off. Maybe it's timing. Maybe the setup is wrong. Maybe you get a moment of distraction and you go up and you heal. I saw a lot of teams, not a lot of teams, a few teams that had some really amazing saves. The flyers in the air, you can tell she's on her heel. The bases are holding over their head and they're trying to stick it and trying to save it. And some did and came down like cleanly, and some didn't come down cleanly, but no one hit the floor. And that is amazing. Uh, that's a safety issue. That's a point deduction. But what I really appreciated was like I didn't see anybody bail. Like I saw everybody trying to save. One tip that you can try, if like I did see, you could tell they were trying to just hold and keep their high V up. But cheerleaders, if you come in, come clean, bring your arms down to your side and pull everything in, try to exhale, and that's going to create a little bit more stability, and it might help to make it easier for your bases to maintain that control. So flyers do that work. Bases, if you're struggling, like talk each other through it. Get underneath and just hold as best you can. It's not always easy, and it won't always 100% guarantee that you're going to save and stick. But I did see a lot of people that knew that they needed to try and save that stunt, and they didn't just bail. And I think that was great. There was a couple of tumbling times that I like, ooh, jumped. One girl came down on her elbows, but it was funny and good. I don't remember what team you were. I'm sorry. But like you pulled it off. You didn't land, you didn't face plant, and you popped right up and kept going into the routine. I think that's a key thing. And that's something that like when things go wrong, how you handle it is the difference between coming out from a good routine and pulling it together and moving on to the next sequence without losing your focus. One thing that I encourage, like when something comes down, it's hard, you know, hard that you mess up your tumbling, or you miss a pass, or your stunt wobbles, or you're just not pulling things right. And you come down and you're like, oh, dang it. And you can see it on their face, just miserable. But if you come down and you're like, all right, I messed up. Let's keep going and make the next one hit. You fake it till you make it, right? And the judges will see that and they will see, okay, yeah, there was a wobble, but that didn't let them ruin the rest of their team. They're able to get back in and focus and keep going. And that's a key thing. Obviously, if you're hurt, there's that video out there going around with a girl busted her knee and she continues to jump and everyone's applauding it. And I think, nope, she should have been off the mat because she had an ACL injury and she shouldn't have been jumping and walking it. Or minimum, she should have just walked. If she could walk on it, walk clean and not attempt to do things. If there's no injuries there and you're fine and you're keeping going, maybe things are a little bit sore, but it's manageable and you can keep participating, then keep going and put a smile on your face, bring the energy, make up for it with clean motions, and do the best you can because mistakes will happen. And you can either choose to have the rest of their team just fall apart or choose to keep going. My very first competition when I was cheerleading, I was in college for my first competition. And we went to Dallas for college nationals. And I messed up my timing and flipped. I don't know if I was flipping too late, but I totally landed on the ground. My base was like, I got to move on to the next count. And like, I think he kind of caught me. I didn't get hurt, but I remember my butt hitting the ground, and then having to get up and scramble to the next. And thank goodness there's no video, but I wish there was more with a video of that. Because now I can go back to my second year competition and I look at and see all the errors in my not clean. But I wish there was video back at the time. And so, we that came down, the next pyramids came down, like every pyramid in there just kind of crashed and burned. And we did not do plates well. I think we were 13 out of 13 maybe, but it was our first competition and we knew we wanted to come back and do better. And the next year, although there was a lot of areas that I now go back and look at that routine and can say, I could have been better at that spot. And I could have done work like getting stronger to have cleaner motions, to jump better for my partner. But we came back and we hit it solid and we finished 7th out of 13. And that was a huge jump for us. So, what you do from your mistakes helps to train you to be better the next time. And that's what's most important, is learning from those errors and do what you can do to help get yourself better. And in the moment, in the routine, let it go because there's nothing you can do about it and focus on what you're doing right now and focus just on that moment because that's can make the rest of the routine be solid. So that was my experience at the competition. Hopefully that helps someone. It was really enjoyable to be there, and I try to attend at least one event a year and just kind of go and observe because it helps keep me in the know of what you guys are doing. But it's always exciting for me to go and see what all the new things are coming in. It was really fun. I will give a shout out. The Bellingham team, they didn't place, but man, their routine was creative, energetic. They're the only ones who had props. They really brought it and brought the enthusiasm to the mat. And I think they displayed what actual cheerleading is. They were crowd oriented. They were the dance was more creative than most. And it's not taking away from anybody. Everybody's routine was awesome. But Bellingham stood out to me because it was just a little bit different. And there's 2 guys on their team and they really brought the energy. And you don't see that very often at a high school level. And I think the confidence that they had, or at least they displayed, maybe they didn't have it, but they displayed that confidence that really stood out to me. And I want to give a shout out to them because you don't see that very often, especially at high school level. And it's hard to do. It's hard to let go of like, people are watching me and I'm just going to leave it there. But the whole team really did that. And so good job. I think you guys did amazing. All right. So if if you're in Massachusetts, if you're around the country, high school season is ending. If you're not, yes, all-star, we're going to keep going. You got a few more months left before your off season goes. But for high school cheer, it's pretty close to being done. It's time to start thinking about, okay, what are you going to do over the summer to get better for the fall? And if you want to level up, now's the time to start. You got to start strength training. You got to start doing your conditioning. You got to start building. Take a couple weeks off just to chill, do some easy movement, but have a plan in place. It's March. This will come out on March 12th. So today's March 10th. April, May, June, July, and the beginning of August, so 5 months to really build up your strength and get you going, for the next season will do you a world of good. If you're interested, I have a new program called the Cheer Athlete Club, and it has structured workouts. There's going to be expert guidance, community of athletes and parents and coaches committing to getting you stronger and feeling more confident. And you get 14 days free, and that link will be in the show notes. So if you're interested, join that. Get different workouts to take you through the next however long you join. It's a ongoing membership, monthly membership, that you can stay in for as long as you like, or just come and try it out. LT the Cheer PT / the Cheer Athlete Club. The link will be in the show notes. That's the easiest way to go and sign up and learn more about it. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So next week, we're going to talk about knee injuries. Now, when I did my poll a couple weeks ago to see what you guys wanted more information about, everyone talked about ankles and low back. And we're going to keep talking about that as we go. But from my observations yesterday, there's a lot of knee injuries out there. And maybe we don't consider them injuries because they're not having to sit out. There's a lot of muscle strain injuries out there that don't necessarily make us sit out, but that we need bracing for. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and, what can you do so that you don't have to wear a brace or use kinesio tape to be able to get through your routine. And talk about, do braces actually help, or is there something else going on that maybe needs to do some more detailed work? So we'll talk about a little bit more about regular knee injuries and knee pain, not necessarily ACL, because that you do need to stay out for about a year. So don't miss it. Make sure you're subscribed so that you never miss an episode. And if this has been helpful for you or someone, please share it so that more people get the information out there. Thank you so much for joining in. I really appreciate it. Please share your thoughts on Instagram. Tag me at the Cheer PT if you were at the competition. Tag me and let me know your favorite moments also. Don't forget to sign up for the Cheer Athlete Club and get ready for your summer training. And then we'll see you next week to dive further into knee injuries and how to make that be less of a thing. Don't forget, when in doubt, breathe out, take life one step at a time. You can do anything you put your mind to. And don't forget, as my friend Drew Kelleher said, you're responsible for your own vibes. Let's go bring those energetic vibes. Have a great day.